What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wednesday night winning Wednesday edition of Fourth and Go, Philly 4 for 4, and so much more. And I'm so glad to bring back an OG. I'm Dave Gleckner at DGleck on Twitter, and this is my man, Mike Salamon Jr., one who has been a host of over 100 shows, part of Fourth and Go's legacy and history. So glad to have you, Mike. Welcome back, buddy.
What am I supposed to say? What up, what up?
You got to say, what up, what up?
What up? From my boy, Mark Thomasini. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Glad to hop in, try to fill some shoes. I know Mark's been doing a great job on the pod. I've been listening in. He does a fantastic job. Hopefully I can fill in and fill his shoes for him this week while he's away. But look forward to talking about some playoffs, some Eagles, some Flyers maybe, and have some fun. Yeah, let's do it.
So I struggled to squeeze some Flyers out of Mark, and that's okay. So I'm getting some Flyers tonight. We'll definitely close on some Flyers at the end, especially for our orange and black faithful out there. But we've got a great show lined up. We're going to talk Eagles season. We're going to talk, was this a success? Easy answer is yes, but we're going to look at the bigger picture as well, where this team's headed. We'll look at the playoff game versus Tampa coming up this weekend down in Florida, and we'll give you our perspective on the upcoming wildcard games, even give you a little 3-pack of our plays this week. And then we'll talk a couple things NFL and get right into those Flyers. So it's going to be a good one. Mike, I'm going to start off with you. I want to get your fresh perspective. The Eagles finished the season 9-8. They exceeded their win total, obviously. Vegas had them at 6.5. They were not a projected playoff team. But we're here. We're dancing, and we're going to make some noise. And that's great for all of us, diehard bleed green fans. But I want to get your perspective. Was this really – obviously, it's a successful year, but I just don't – in my perspective, it's a year that, I wasn't too surprised. I picked them at 9-8 before the season and make the last wild card. And for me, it was because of the schedule. It was just maybe a little lucky, but a lot of times there's turnover in the NFL, and the schedule, last place schedules just seem to breed playoff teams. That's what the Eagles had. And obviously, when we got the Jets, Dallas gets Kansas City, things like that are huge. Those one-game turnovers are big, and the Eagles really had a favorable schedule. So for me, successful year, but I don't want to use it as a year that we think we really transitioned well. I think there's a lot more work to do. I'm excited. I'm going to call it a year that I'm happy with. I'm not sure I'm going to go it's really a fully successful year.
Yeah, I can see your point there. And yes, it was a successful season. When you look at brand new coach coming in, an unproven starting quarterback that has some questions surrounding him a little bit, some offensive line tinkering. You look at things like that, and you wonder what's going to happen in this season when you come out. Then you come out, and right away, you win in Atlanta, and all of a sudden there's a buzz, right? And then you drop the 49ers game, which you could have won. Drop Dallas, you drop KC, and now all of a sudden we're panicking. You beat the Panthers, and then you drop Tampa Bay. And for me, the turning point of the season was the loss to the Raiders, right? So
I agree, 100%.
You lose to the Raiders. You go out to Vegas, and you lose to the Raiders. And I don't know what happened in the locker room after that, but it appears that the team gelled. Something happened. Something clicked in Nick Sirianni, where he decided he wasn't going to impose his game plan on a team. He was going to let his team dictate his game plan. And
I agree.
From week 7 on, I want to say it's a success because you could see the maturization of Nick Sirianni. You saw him maturing. You saw him gaining confidence. You saw the players rallying behind him and his game plan. And then that's when the Eagles started to run the ball. And he realized, you know what, I got a really, really good offensive line that I can run behind. And he started to tailor his game behind that running offense. So, when he did that, I think it was something that pushed this team to that next level of saying, yeah, this is a successful season to me. And successful meaning that it's a good building block, because now you look at the upcoming seasons and you're going to have a more difficult schedule next year. But you also have those draft picks, right? And those are going to be big. The Eagles offseason, Howie Roseman's going to have to do a good job in tooling this team now to make sure that they're prepared for this upcoming season. harping back on the schedule a little bit, they had a more favorable back end of the schedule, which might have something to do with Nick Sirianni being tripped up in the beginning of the season, facing the more difficult teams early on, not being able to get buy-in from his players early on. And then all of a sudden, all right, now there's some buy-in. I'm tweaking things here and there. And then boom, the end of the season, you're 9-8, which really they should have been 10-7 because that Giants game was an anomaly that I really don't know how that fell apart. But I mean, that Giants game should have been a win, right?
It definitely should have been a win. And you make a great point about the Raiders, because from the Raiders on, 7-2. I'm throwing out that last game, but it really was a change in strategy. It was a change in philosophy. And it was not just with Sirianni. I think it was a little with Gannon too. You saw more aggressive play from the defensive coordinator. In the end, that's really what got us there. They only lost to the Giants, which they should have won, and the Chargers, which I could argue they probably should have won that game too. One of the few games the Chargers actually won in a close game situation. So the Eagles played good down the stretch. I don't want to go overboard here. I don't want to jump too high to conclusions. They were tied versus Washington, 10-10 at half here. They were tied versus the Giants, 3-3. They were down to Washington down there. I think it was something in the 16-7, 16-10 range. And those three games, they ended up coming back and playing a great second half. They really need to get this game going a lot faster going forward here. But overall, I'm still with you. It was a good season. It's a successful season because, like you said, rookie coach. Now we've made the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 seasons. Only got past the first round once in those. So I gotta actually twice. I'm sorry, the Chicago double doink. But I gotta look forward here. This has got to be it's got to be a springboard. That's what we really want. And I just don't need them to settle and sit here and say, we got the talent, because they have a lot of holes to still fill. And they got to use all 3 first-round picks. Don't trade out. Don't get too creative. Let's get this experience this Sunday. Maybe even win. And then let's build for next year. I can tell you much. I am excited for the team going forward. This was a good year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what they're going to need to do without jumping ahead and past this playoff game, definitely got to address the defenses. There's missing pieces on defense. I think you get away with the offense next year.
Yep.
Defense, but we're kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse here. We're trying to focus on this year and what the Eagles are able to accomplish this year. They had a successful season. It's something they can hang their hat on. They're here playing in week 18, right? A lot of teams are not. So, this is your opportunity now to kind of show what you're made of. Show what we can build on. Show what Howie Roseman can build on going forward. What Sirianni can build on. Gannon, if he's here, I heard he's got some requests for an interview, which blows my mind. But
yeah, me too.
I didn't hate Gannon. I didn't hate him this year, but I didn't think he progressed as fast as Sirianni. He progressed, and I think he improved. I don't think he stayed with him.
Yeah, I agree with you from this sense. Like, I think he knew he was handed not a great hand, right? He's sitting. Sure. It wasn't quite 2-7 offsuit, but he's sitting there with maybe a 9-10 connector, and he's not really loving what he's going to have to play against the board. And he just says, I got to play this way. I got to slow the game down. I just got to not let anybody beat me long and hope I stop in the red zone and settle for field goals. And, we hated watching the non-pressure, but in the end, we got it. We understood it. And then he did get a little more aggressive as the games went on. He got to feel out his personnel a little more. I think Fletcher Cox infused some of his thoughts into the game plan. And I do think Gannon grew. I give you 100. You're right on. I think he grew. If he stays around, we'll see. But in the end, I don't know. I don't hate the guy, and I would be 100% fine with him coming back on.
Oh, 100%. And just like Sirianni made some adjustments, with the running game. You saw Gannon make adjustments, even with personnel, who they released in the middle of the season that really wasn't pulling his weight. The name escapes me now. The linebacker that they let go.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a big piece of their defense, and they cut him loose, right? And then Edwards comes in, and then he's more of a force. He's more of a force now because he has more playing time with this other guy gone. And like you said, he's playing great. Singletary's doing his job. So you have a Singleton. We don't have Singletary. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know. I don't like him, man. Not 2 bits. Like this dude, he gets up and starts playing the guitar and shit, and like after you got dusted for 8 plays before that.
Yeah, but it's you did see that growth. You saw the you saw the adjustments, right? So in those games where you're saying where it was close at halftime, and then you go to the second half, and the Eagles are making adjustments to where they're able to put the offense on the field and pull out a win. So you saw some defensive adjustments that were made, which is something that we're not used to there, adjustment-wise. But he made the adjustments that were necessary to win games. I need to have a better game plan input from the start so that we're,
yes,
the Eagles falling behind early. But the adjustments made at halftime in those few games were fantastic. And, come out with a good game plan here in week 18 against a team that you've already played and you hung with. I think that, the growth is still happening and hopefully continues.
Yeah, it's got to give you confidence. And let me just take one pause here. Adam Cease, thanks for checking in. Cease was a big guy. He follows us regularly. He was all on the Georgia Bulldogs on Monday night with us. And
boy,
Cease, yeah, hey, big wins always, take a little bit of time and offer us a celebration point. So cheers to you, Adam, and thanks for checking in and thanks for riding with the boys. All right, so yeah, Mike, you're right. A little familiarity here, I do think, goes a long way into the comfort level that the Eagles have going into this game. But before we get into this game and this weekend and where we got, let me just ask you this. Me and Thomas Sr. are probably on one side. Our guy Tony Cotillo from the Heat Ratio Sports Network and Jigsaw, he might be a little bit on the other side. I think Drums is somewhere kind of maybe favoring towards us. So I got to ask you, is Jalen Hurts the guy?
Speaking of comfortability, right? Let me get comfortable here.
Get it in.
Get me a little plug.
Let it sink. Let it sink in there.
This is how we used to do it in the old studios of Fourth and Go. So let me get one in. I can get comfortable, get thoughts going here. It helps me my thinking process. Jalen Hurts, I was not on board in the beginning of the season for Jalen Hurts to be a starting quarterback. I didn't think he was somebody that would have the moxie to do it. He's a guy from Alabama who loses his starting role and then decides he's going to transfer out, which benefited him, right? So, he was able to get drafted, and then he gets picked in the second round by the Eagles, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Oh, maybe they're going to use him like a Taysom Hill, which never really happened. And then the Carson Wentz thing goes on, which we'll get into later. You want a rant from me, you'll get one.
Yes.
So the Carson Wentz thing goes on, and then Jalen comes in and he plays the final few games where it was wishy-washy. It was one good game, one bad game, and then the last game of the season was great. And then even this year, in the first half of the season, I didn't see things from him that said this is a starting quarterback, this is a franchise quarterback. He's a great stopgap, right? Great stopgap. I think it's perfect. He can
good leader.
Good leader. He says the right things, right? He has all those crazy sayings. I love it. But I didn't see him being that guy. I didn't see him being the guy, the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Philip Rivers, the guy up in Allen, up in Buffalo, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady.
Yep.
Guys like that. He's not that guy. But that being said, as the season progressed, you saw him mature. You saw him kind of benefit from the running game, right? So you saw him benefit from that.
Yep.
Not only with his legs, but also with his arm. He was able to use play action and then find an open receiver. He doesn't throw a ton of interceptions. But I saw some maturity there. And then I look back and I think to myself, this kid's only 23 years old. He's still really, really young and still technically a rookie. So I'm still on the fence. Still on the fence. I want to see how he comes out and what kind of confidence and what kind of leadership he shows in a playoff game. And then, I want to give him another season, 100%. I want to give him another season to say, hey, this is what I have. This is what I can do. Because if you look across the league, all the quarterbacks out there, I mean, he's the second best quarterback in the NFC East by far, right?
I agree.
He's better than what the Saints have, better than
Yep.
obviously the Giants and the Redskins. He's better than what the Panthers have. He's better than a lot of these teams in the NFC. When you look and you kind of just say apples to apples, is this guy better than these quarterbacks? And I say yes, absolutely. He's a middle of the pack quarterback, but he can only go up, right? Because I think if he drops, he starts to falter, he's done, right? He's got a hot seat in that sense.
So I think you hit it on the head, and I'm probably right there with you. And I'm going to tell everyone here right now, Jalen Hurts absolutely deserves another year as the Eagles starting quarterback. He had driven this team to heights that not many of us thought would get there, even though I said, hey, I was hopeful and I thought we would. It's still a very good accomplishment, and one that not many NFL pundits thought would happen. And you got to give him respect. You got to give him credit, and I absolutely do. And I think, as you said earlier, 23, great point. As you said earlier, can only go up. Agree there, too. Another offseason in this offense with this new coach and an ability to grow. I'm all for it, and I really am looking forward to the potential of Jalen Hurts, and I want him being under center next year. There's only one way I don't want that, and that's if we can get someone special like a Rodgers or Wilson, which I think are very far outreaching scenarios, and I don't really want to give up much because I'd rather build the team through the draft here. So I'm all in. Jalen Hurts 2022. He's my guy. I'm in. And my only thing I'm going to say, and go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I just wanted to rewind on what you just said about a Rodgers or a Wilson. And yes, they're fantastic quarterbacks in their day. And obviously Rodgers is still doing it. Wilson's kind of, I think, on the downslide. But do you risk the growth of what could be, right, by bringing one of those guys in, right? So, throw an analogy out there and just say, hey, listen, I got this pepper plant that I planted in my yard and it's yielding decent peppers, but I need some big peppers. So I run to the store and I grab a bunch of different peppers. But I had to sell that plant to get these bigger peppers. Well, now that plant might be in somebody else's garden doing great. You know what I mean? So, what's the cost, to Jalen Hurts? What's the repercussions for bringing in somebody like that for a season next year where, are they a Super Bowl team next year? I don't know. I mean, if I sit here and I say, yes, we went to the NFC Championship this year and we have the pieces in place and maybe we just need to tinker. We need one or two pieces on defense and maybe a starting quarterback. Yes. Then I say you pull the trigger on something like that and go for it because you got to go for it. Sort of like the TO year where you went for it. But I don't know that they're in that position to say, you know what, let's grab a Russell Wilson, grab an Aaron Rodgers for a year, because I don't know that that's going to yield the result that you want long term too.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I get enamored by the idea of both of them, and there's going to be some other guys that are out there. It's crazy anymore that franchise quarterbacks are actually on the move. It's a different NFL, but as long as I can protect 2 out of my 3 first-round picks this year, I would be interested. Anything more than that, I need to grow this team. This team needs a lot of work, especially on the defensive side, and I think they need one electric wide receiver. And if you're going to add an electric wide receiver, why not stick with Jalen Hurts? There's names like Calvin Ridley out there, and there's other names in the draft this year. Another good wide receiver year drafting. So I'm in. Jalen Hurts 2022. I got the slogan. I got the sign. I'm in. I'm ready. I'm pumping it up. Long term, I do need to see some growth here because, as you mentioned earlier, and we'll talk about this for years, the turning point of that Vegas game. Since then, Jalen Hurts has thrown for only over 200 yards twice in those 9 games. Well, he didn't play one of them, the Jets. And the reason being, he didn't have to, right? They went to that running style. They went to that running game. But they're going to need to.
What he doesn't give you in yardage thrown, and we all know he doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't have a down-the-field arm. We all know that. We knew that coming in. We knew that when he took over the reins. But what he makes up for in that sense is the 40 and 50 yards rushing that he puts up.
Yes.
You got a guy who slings it all around the yard and is throwing for 300 yards. They're not gaining the 50 to 70 yard rushing yards per game. So you're gaining those yards just in a different fashion.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. He's got a lot of other skills and talents and traits and things that really make him a good quarterback and a good leader of our team. So, all right, let's get into this week. Let's look at Tampa, and I'm going to flash up, the line in a second here. But hey, man, there's a lot of things that we can look at when we come into this week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Eagles' history with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs is actually pretty significant. They're 2-2 all time against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but really, two of those games didn't really play much into, the history. One was back in 1979. But, some of the recent form here, the Bucs beat us, obviously, in the vet. We beat them, too, to advance to the NFC Championship game. We had some rivalry blood here. It's pretty cool to bring this back into the fold, and it's pretty cool to get Tom Brady again, who the Eagles are 1-1 against in the playoffs, losing Super Bowl back in 2004 and then winning the one most recently here in 2018 Super Bowl 52. So, there's some familiarity. There's some excitement. This is an opponent we know, and I'm just excited for the game this weekend. But I will say it's going to be a tough matchup. The only good thing we have going for us, and it's on that side of the ball, with Tampa side, is they're banged up. Godwin's out. Evans is a little hamstring. Obviously AB did his thing and found his way out of town pretty quickly there. Yeah. And I mean, Fournette may be trying to come back, but he's coming off a hamstring. They have some injuries on defense. So they're old. They knew they were old. They knew they were rolling with this thing. They played a lot of games last year, going to play a lot of games again this year. They're there to be had. And the Eagles will have a chance in this game, an opportunity, but they're going to have to play a smart, strategic, and effective non-turnover game.
Listen, I mean, Tom Brady is, as much as you hate the guy, I know I do.
Yeah, I do.
As much as you hate the guy, he's a weapon, right? He went 34 for 42, 297 earlier in the season, right? 2 touchdowns at the end, interception, 102 passer rating. But when you look at it, he also was throwing 13 times to Antonio Brown for 93 yards and a touchdown. He had Godwin out there still. So you lose those 2 guys. The fact that, the talk all week is, he talks about the Eagles a lot. It's in his head.
Yeah, he does.
It's in his head. And, in a playoff game, I'm sure that's gonna come back to him into his head. And there's going to be some thoughts there. Like you said, Leonard Fournette's banged up. The defense is banged up. And the key factor here is this was prior to the Vegas game, the 8th week, where the Eagles ran the ball. And one way that you can beat Tom Brady is keep him on the goddamn bench. If he's on the bench and you're running the ball and you're eating clock, running the ball, eating clock, gaining first downs, you keep him on the bench, he's not going to be able to hurt you like he can if he's got the ball in his hands the entire first half, second half. You keep him on the bench, he's gonna get frustrated because he wants to be out there to win the game.
Yep. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think that's the key to this game. I've looked at a lot of stats, and I've tried to break down where we get here. And the Eagles really do not have a good matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Does that mean they can't compete? No. But what the Bucs do well, that's pass. Tom Brady, you mentioned, had a good game against the Eagles earlier, but also led the league in passing yards, passing attempts, passing touchdowns. He was tremendous this year. What do the Eagles not do well? They don't play the pass very well. NFL quarterbacks have a league-leading almost 70% completion percentage against the Eagles. The Eagles are 31st in the NFL in sacks. Only Atlanta Falcons came in worse. They don't create that pressure needed to really get him off his schedule, off his game. So something's got to give here, right? So that's their strength versus our weakness. Then we go on the other side of the ball. Where do they perform well in defense? They're the 3rd best team against the run in the NFL. Eagles obviously being the best rushing attack. So it's iron meets iron there. The only thing I'll say on that side is they have allowed 8 100-yard rushers. So there is some potential there. While they have been 3rd best against the run, maybe that's a little skewed from the fact that some games, some teams have just decided to pass. They were that vulnerable against the pass that they just decided not to run. I know Dallas did it early in the season when they passed like 30 consecutive times against them. Some other teams chose to do the same. So I will say it's not a great matchup because their strengths are our weaknesses and vice versa. But on the flip side of the ball, with their health in question, they struggled against the Jets just 2 weeks ago. They had a little struggle against the Panthers before pulling away third quarter, fourth quarter this recently. I mean, the Eagles are better than those two teams. They can hang. I think they can hang.
What about the distraction factor too? I mean, how much of a distraction
Sure.
is that Antonio Brown situation and how all that went down? I mean, I've never seen anything. I mean, it reminded me of Slapshot when Ned Braden skating around taking his clothes off on the ice.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
That's the best comparison. So, yeah.
What kind of distraction does that pose to the team, to Bruce Arians and getting his team ready? He's got to answer all these questions about Antonio Brown this week. I'm sure he's past that now, but you never know. They're beat up. They're old. Like you said, they're old. And they're beat up on defense a little bit. I'd like to see guys like Quez Watkins and Jalen Smith. I'd like to see them step up, have a decent game. Not Jalen Smith, Jalen Reagor. If he can catch the goddamn ball, have those guys, show up a little bit. If they can complement Smith a little bit, and then maybe Goddard can get some plays. The one factor that I am afraid of is Gannon's zone coverage and preventing the deep ball. Tom Brady will dink and dunk you to death. He'll dink and dunk.
Yeah, he will.
We saw that in Super Bowl. What was it? The first time, where he just dink and dunk. And Ben don't break. Sometimes breaks when it's dink dunk all the way down the field. And like I said, it's going to be key to keep him on the sidelines and not have him warm and maybe get him off his rhythm.
And you're right. I mean, that's the dink dunk problem that we'll have to obviously defend is Rob Gronkowski. The Eagles let up a league high 107 receptions and 14 TDs to tight ends. They just don't guard them well. We know it. That linebackers aren't good. Singleton's trash. But we just got to do what we got to do. And that's really where I think this comes down again and creating a creative game plan to really just get him off schedule. Just give me a second.
He didn't play the first game, right?
No.
Yeah, he didn't play. I know Howard played, and he had 6 catches, 50 yards. So.
Yeah. The Eagles are not very good against tight ends, and that's really what Tampa has here. So again, just some key points here. But when I look at the game, here's where I think the Eagles really have a chance, and we'll know it in the first half, in my opinion. In the 4 games the Bucs have lost this year, they've trailed at the half. And in those games, they've scored 7 points, 7 points, 6 points, 0 points. Most recently, the Saints game when they lost 9-0, they were down 6-0 at half. So if they're able to hold the Bucs offense in check in the first half, we talked earlier how the Eagles were tied against the Giants, tied against the Redskins, or football team, and down against the football team in the matchup down in Hanover. If the Eagles aren't able to play an even first half or at least have the lead and control the Bucs offense, it's over. I think I'll know by halftime. But if they're able to keep this game close by half, if they're able to keep the Bucs offense in check, I'm telling you, they're a live dog.
Yeah.
So know by half.
I agree. By halftime, you're right. You'll know where whether they're going to be in this game. If it's within a field goal, it's going to be a dogfight to the end. And Gannon will make his halftime adjustments. Hopefully, Sirianni does the same, and they can put something together in the second half to kind of keep the Bucs on the ropes.
Yep. All right, we're getting into our picks, Mike. You want to lead it off?
I will. So, with all the things we just said, halftime and being down by 3, my biggest fear is a little bit of a rust factor. Not having those guys play last week. I'm worried about a little bit of injury popping up. It was a decent strategy. I understand why Sirianni did it. I know what he was looking to do. If they can get the running game going and keep Tom Brady at bay and on the bench, I think they have a really good chance. I think they're underdog 8.5 point underdog.
8.5. Yeah.
According to our scroller, 8.5 point underdogs. I think it was a great season. You're playing with house money. I believe it ends here. I do think the Bucs win the game. I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I think they do lose to the Buccaneers, but I have them covering.
What do you got to score?
I'm going to say 24-20.
Nice. So it'll be an entertaining game, 1 o'clock down Sunday in Raymond James Stadium down there at the Pirate Ship in Tampa. Look, Mike, I'm not that far away from you. The bottom line is this is an Eagles team that's a little early to the party. It's an Eagles team that's young. It's green. It's Sirianni. It's Hurts. It's Devontae Smith. Their best players that we can speak of are young, don't have the experience. And we've said, well, as much as the Bucs are older, as much as the Bucs, have some flaws, being that old, being that banged up, they're a team that can focus and win a game like this one that's coming Sunday. And I'll be honest, I don't think the Eagles are that good. I think, those games that they had against the Washington football team and the Giants that they were able to win, the second half was impressive because they really implied their game plan and their physicality. I think you can game plan for the run. I think the Bucs, knowing that the Eagles' strength is the run, are going to be able to game plan. I think they're going to be able to neutralize that. And I think they're going to make Jalen Hurts beat them. What's the last time someone tried to do that? It's the Giants game. The Giants game that they lost up in the Meadowlands 13-7, where the Giants really just sat back and said, go ahead, do it. And Nick Sirianni wasn't patient enough to stick with the run. And I just have that fear that, this isn't the Giants. This is an offense that's going to get out, push a little bit of a lead, and Nick Sirianni is not going to be able to stick and be patient with the run.
He's not going to have that.
Be patient.
Yeah, not have that experience to be patient. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, I love, like, Nick, you got me, man. We're cool. This is great. But in the end, I think the Bucs are just too much for us. I do see scenarios where we can win this game. And it's going to take an early turnover. It's going to take some creative defensive play calling and keep this game close at half, as we talked about. I just think in the bigger picture, it's a bad matchup. The Rams were a better matchup for us. The Cardinals were a better matchup. Believe it or not, the Cowboys might have been a better matchup too, as we'll get into in our NFL 3-packs down the road. I think the Bucs were the worst matchup. I think it's going to show. I got the Bucs winning 30-17. Good game. Great season. But in the end, and again, I see a path where we can get there, but I see too many other paths where the Bucs just are able to control this game. The veteran leadership, the veteran coaching can be a little much for us this week. And that's okay. That's okay, because this has been a great season.
Yeah, I have it a little closer, but yeah, I see your points. Valid. Very valid.
Yeah, my heart says we can win this game. It absolutely does. It's just the numbers, and I'm trying to pick one in my mind this week. All right, so we'll see. 1 o'clock Sunday, I'm sure we'll be tweeting and texting about it. It's going to be fun. Let's talk about the other games this weekend. Mike, there's a lot of great games. We'll go through them one by one real fast, and tell me if you have a pick on the game. We're going to give out 3-packs against the spread here, but the first game coming up this Saturday is Upstart Raiders. What a game last Sunday night versus the Upstart Bengals, another team that's just been flying around. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. I'm going to be honest, this isn't one of the games in my 3-pack. If I had to lean, I'm leaning Cincinnati. I do think they beat them 32-13 in the regular season. I think the Raiders are kind of at the end of their wick. They're burning real shallow here. They're doing great. Don't get me wrong. Beating the Colts, beating the Chargers at the end of the season. It's fun, but they got interim coach. They got a lot of, Henry Ruggs is still leaning on them. They don't have a lot of offensive firepower at the wide receiver position. I think it comes to an end this week, but it's not one of my picks.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to the interim coach there, stepping in the way he did and getting the boys to play to a level where they're in the position they're in. How the Chargers and the Raiders didn't come up with a handshake deal to tie that game is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have been behind closed doors, but shaking hands, we're like, hey, listen, let's go.
Especially when it got to overtime, right?
Yeah. It was overtime. I'd have ran the ball every down. I'm running the ball.
Yeah.
But the Rays pulled it out and giving Ben one last shot at the playoffs. But I agree with you. The Bengals, I think, had the far superior team playing in Cincinnati. Probably gonna be a chilly day in Cincinnati. Vegas is coming from the desert to play east in Cincinnati, where it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be Ohio weather, outdoor. Joe Burrow, I think has come a long way. And I don't see David Carr being tough as nails type quarterback that can play in the cold weather and pull this out. I have the Bengals as well.
All right, cool. All right, we move on to Sunday or Saturday Night Football. I'm sorry. And this one is one I'm just like licking my chops. Patriots Bills. I mean, it was a team early in the season. I love the Bills. They got the AFC Championship game last year. I just think they were ready to take that next step. And then they kind of just like they swam in mud for a little while. They did finish the season winning that AFC East, but they're still like the Bills are like a metrics champion. They're top 10 in almost every category, offense and defense. But still, they're just a little underwhelming, and they're hard for me to just say they're going to go out and do this. But then I look at the Patriots, and, I mean, as much as we've loved the story this year, Mac Jones has been fantastic. He's done what Bill has asked for him. This is a very heavy rushing attack, a very defensive, centralized team, and it's a great coach team. But this is a big test for a guy, Mac Jones, to go up to Buffalo in a rabid environment where you're going to have guys, they're going to break a record tables up there. It's going to be in the thousands, man. Home Depot better be stocked up because they're jumping this weekend. They're off the top. They're ready. They're going to be wild. They're going to be rabid. I'm thinking this is a great week to pounce on the Bills. I'm looking, one of my plays in my 3-pack is the Bills this week, -4. I just think it's a really good opportunity for them to slay their perennial giant, the guy that's been on the top forever. This was the first AFC East championship for the Bills in quite some time. And it's just, I think it's the Bills' time. And I do think this means a lot more to them than it does the Patriots. The Patriots are ready to rebuild. They're on the way up and up. They got a great quarterback. They're going to get there. But I think, where these two teams meet the brick wall, I like the Bills this week. I really do. I think the -4 is very good for them. I think they win this game double digits.
Wow. All right, double digits. So I have it a little close. I think it's gonna be freezing in Buffalo. It's gonna be 23 here on Saturday, so it's gonna be frigid up in Buffalo. It's gonna be a hard fought game, low scoring game. I definitely would see the under on this one. New England's, like you said, it's their Achilles heel, Buffalo Bills, and if there's signs all over the Bills facility this week, it's now's our time. Yep. And if they're not preaching that to these guys, then shame on them, because now is their time. It's their time to capitalize. They have the team. You're right. They swam in mud in the middle of that season, toward the end of the season, and now it's time for them to step up and really show the league what was predicted of them earlier in the season, because they came out, guns a-blazing, and it was like, wow, Buffalo's a team. And then they kind of faltered a little bit. So, I think the mantra out there that, this is our time should be held on the Bills. The crowd's going to be crazy. It's going to be a rabid crowd. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a great game to watch. You're right. It's going to be one of those ones where you want to sit down and watch this one. I have the Bills winning a close game, 24-17.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not that far away. I think it'll be somewhere in the 28-17 range, something like that. Only late touchdown. I think it's a close, well-battled game until the fourth quarter. I think it's Josh Allen's time to shine. I'll see what that does for them going into the next week, because I think this emotion, it will be tough for the Bills to carry in through the playoffs. But
agreed,
they're going to be up for this game, and I can't wait for it. So that does lead us. We already talked about the Eagles, 1 o'clock on Sunday. So then we got to look at the game following that. And that is another game I like, another game I can't wait for, and that's the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. Talked a little bit about it earlier. The way you beat the Cowboys is you run the ball. Teams that have been able to successfully run the ball against the Dallas Cowboys have been able to have success and win games. The Raiders did it. Denver Broncos did it. And just recently, the Arizona Cardinals did it. If Dallas holds you to under 100 yards rushing, they're 6-0. So you got to get in a game plan with them where their defense is aggressive. We've seen it. Micah Parsons amazing. Their defensive line, Lawrence is back. All these guys, Gregory, they're great. And they will put pressure on you, and they'll eat you alive if they know it's a passing play. But if you're able to be physical and pound the ball, I really think you got a chance. And guess what San Fran loves to do? They're similar to the Eagles. They love to run the ball. They're third in the NFL in rushing yards. They're fourth in rushing attempts. So they're going to stick with it. And Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb, we don't know how it is. I think they're going to rely on Eli Mitchell. And when they did this recently, they did it to the Rams. They just bludgeoned them to death, pounding the ball time and time again with Elijah Mitchell. And I like the Niners in this game. This is not Dallas hate. This is just objective, looking at the stats. I think the 49ers are live in this game. +3. I think they win outright. Give me the San Francisco 49ers 24-21. Dak in the playoffs. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I watched that game. One of the negatives to my girlfriend Ashley's, me liking her was that she's a Niners fan. So, we sat and watched. Okay. We watched the game on Sunday night, and pulling for the Niners, and the way that they showed a little bit of moxie there. Late in the game, the Rams come down and score. And you're thinking, oh, no. And she's like, oh, I got to turn it off. I can't watch. I was like, no, watch it. It'll be all right. Let's watch. And then that Jennings, he had a hell of a game. He stepped up. He was making plays. You got Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings. So even if they are able to shut down the run, I think the Niners can pick on, as strange as it sounds, I think you can pick on a guy like number 7, what's his name, the cornerback for the Cowboys, Diggs. I think you could pick on him jumping routes, right? Double move him. If you get the running game going, you do a little play action. And Jimmy Garoppolo has shown that he can sling it. He can still throw. He threw for 316 against the Rams. A solid team, a great defense.
Yes.
I think they can come out and put up some points versus Dallas. And I think the Dallas Cowboys have a little too much swagger right now, and it's unearned. They ran away with the East with a bad division. The one game against the Eagles, they played the third string and they beat them up pretty good. But the Eagles laid 24 on them. I mean, that's a backup quarterback and a backup offensive line laying 24 on you. That's scary. That's got to be
140 yards rushing, like 135 or something like that. They were running the ball effectively with all that backups.
And I agree with you. I have the 49ers winning outright. It is on my 3-pack. I have the San Francisco 49ers outright plus the 3, 24-17.
Love it. We're close, man. Right there. Love it. 49ers they're dangerous, boy. And I love Shanahan, and I love what that team brings. They're different energy. All right, let's look at the night game real quick on Sunday night. I don't need to give you much on this. I'm just going to tell you the Steelers are trash. Ben Roethlisberger is trash, and the Chiefs already destroyed them. I think at one point they were up 30-0 against the Steelers just a few weeks ago. I don't have this in my 3-pack because I really don't know. The number's too big for me. I just don't love the bet. If I had to do something, I might tease and play with it, but I don't love it. So if anything, I'm going to stay away. Chiefs win, they roll. I don't know how interested they'll be in this game. I don't know if they want to bury Ben Roethlisberger on his last game ever. I really don't know where the motivation's at. They win. I just don't want to touch the line. Just give me I'll call winning by 10. But
I agree. I don't like the line a little bit. And you're right. The Chiefs are head and shoulders above the Steelers. Big Ben's last game, maybe. Let's just say it's his last game. Right? I think he got all the emotion out, leaving Heinz Field for the last time, and I think just that much emotion. I think he's already mailed it in. I don't see the Steelers being able to put up enough fight to go against the Chiefs, who really have had to show themselves who they are again. They, same as the Bills, faltered a little bit in the middle of the season, and now have kind of rejuvenated themselves a little bit. I like the Chiefs. I don't like the line. It scares me a little bit, but I think they win big.
I agree.
The line scares me.
I agree. All right, let's settle on which is the first time we've done this in NFL history, and that's a Monday night wild card game, and I love it. Like, I'm on the record. This is awesome. The more football I can get, the better. I loved when they went to 7 teams. I even love it more that they're going to stretch this out to Monday night football, and it's a great game. It's the Rams and Cardinals. They split the season 1-1, each team winning on the other team's home field. The Cardinals aren't really showing real well right now. They're a 4-point underdog. You know, losing that game just recently to the Seattle Seahawks in Week 18, just it probably doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But then you go back to 17 and they beat the Cowboys. Go back to 16, they lose the disappointing one of the Colts. They're very roller coaster-esque type of team right now after starting the year, wheels on fire. But I go back to the game that was played in LA. Arizona won 37-20. I'm not a huge LA guy. I just think to phrase it best, I think they sold their soul to the devil. The trades for Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, just Matt Stafford even. He's shown that he's got talent. He can play in this offense, but boy, does he know how to throw pick sixes and know how to throw picks to close games like he did in San Fran last week. I just don't have a lot of faith that I can just build on the LA Rams here and think that they can beat an Arizona Cardinal team that might be motivated. Do I like McVay better than Kingsbury? Yeah, I do. But in the end, I think Arizona's live here. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the +4, put that in my 3-pack. I go Bills. I go Niners. I go Cardinals. 2 dogs, 1 favorite. I do like the Cardinals in this game. I think they're going to get undervalued. A lot more money's coming in on the Rams right now. They're America's team from the standpoint of people think they're good. I think they're a little overrated. I'm going with the Cardinals.
This is where we're going to differ a little bit. I think the Rams feel that they have something to prove. Not that they let up against the 49ers, but they were already guaranteed a spot. They were already in the show. So, losing wasn't necessarily a bad thing for them. Matthew Stafford, has he played a playoff game?
A few,
probably won't. Yeah. Probably has to prove himself. So I think he knows that. I think the defense is fantastic. I don't think that they put an A effort against the 49ers. Von Miller coming off the end, Donald up the middle, Jalen Ramsey. I think they're going to do enough to upset the Cardinals. And there's one thing about Kyler Murray that you saw during the season is when things don't go his way or things that don't go right, he tends to slip into a funk, and he gets down on his receivers, he gets down on himself, he gets down on his coaches. And I think that's something that, similar to the Eagles, is by halftime, you're going to know who's going to win this game. And I went the other way. I get the Rams by 4 and covering that spread.
Nice. All right. Hey, it's all good, man. I can't wait. Monday Night Football. It's going to be fun. And listen, I'm not a huge Cardinals guy. I do think, like with you, the Kyler Murray is starting to blame people and point and do this. Hate it. The Cliff Kingsbury, I feel like he panics and makes the wrong challenges. But when they've been dogs, and they were dogs earlier in the year, they played better. When they were dogs in Dallas, they played better. So that's why I like them in a dog situation. If they were favored, forget about it. But that's just my lean. But hey, one thing I can agree on with you. It's gonna be fun.
My 3-pack is gonna be the Eagles plus 8.5, Rams -4, San Fran outright +3 against Dallas. Take it. All right,
we got one same, one different, and then we each pick a different game. I like it. We'll track that. Yeah. We'll post that out. I think this sounds like money this weekend. Hey, Mike, let's finish on the NFL. I got 2 great topics.
I got one that I just want to get off my chest.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
It wouldn't be 4th and go if we didn't bring Angry Mike into the.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really was frustrated about, just listening to sports radio here in Philadelphia, and it's a Philadelphia thing that I'm angry about, and that's the obsession with athletes that leave our town and our overexcitement or overjoy or even going the other way or sadness when they do well or they do poorly. And I think we as a sports city, when you listen to sports radio all week, everybody's so happy that Carson Wentz fell apart and blew the game. He's not on my team anymore. I don't care about Carson Wentz. The only thing I cared about Carson Wentz, and the only thing that I even gave a shit about, was if this guy got enough snaps to get me the first goddamn draft pick that we're supposed to get. And as soon as that happened, I don't give a shit about Carson Wentz. I don't care if he goes to church. I don't care if he takes his team out to dinner. I don't care if he loses a game. I don't care if he goes to the playoffs. Carson Wentz, Go F yourself. I don't care about you. I don't care about your stupid Colts. And for all the fans that sit and they worry and they're happy because he lost, get the hell over it. The guy's not here. Let's get past it. That's my
I
rant
love
for
it.
the week.
I love it. And you know what? I gave a rant last week, Mike. I'm going to add an Angry Dave rant to this thing right now because I'm with you.
Yes.
I am 100% with you. I don't care about Carson Wentz. I don't care that you think you had a great season and you can't wait to be back next year because guess what, dude? You suck. You're not a good quarterback, and we got a better one sitting here now. Move on. I don't need anything. The reason our fans are so infatuated with Carson Wentz is because he burned us. Guess what? The best response to people burning us is ignore him.
Ignore him.
He's out there. He's in the Midwest. Let him lose. The only thing I cared about Carson Wentz was him losing this week, so we got a better draft pick. But from there on, I'm not commenting on his Instagram page. I'm not commenting on his Twitter. I don't care about you, Carson Wentz. You're not a good quarterback. You're not a good person. I'm going to just be happy watching you just sit there and do what you did to us, and that's lose and be a loser because that's what you are.
100%.
So I don't care about
Absolutely.
you. I don't care anything about you. And to be quite frank, I think Indianapolis knows the same thing we knew last year. I think they're starting to come on to you. I think they know you can't win games. You can't beat the 2-14 Jacksonville Jaguars, who just got beat 50-10 by the New England Patriots the week before. You can't beat that team, and you have a quarterback rating sub 10. You suck. So why do I care?
I don't care one bit.
I don't.
He's
a loser. He's not here. I'm with you. I am with you 100%, bud. And guess what? Life's better with no more Carson Wentz.
Oh, my God. It's fantastic.
So with that said, we do have one quarterback. We talked about him earlier, and it is Big Ben. And he is, it's funny. They had a game this week at Baltimore, and I don't know how they pulled it out because he was atrocious once again. And he can't throw the ball more than 4 yards, 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Reminds me of Breeze from last year. It's almost sad to watch when you just see a guy that, at some point you did know he was very good, to watch him be a ghost. And he's definitely in the bottom 5 in the league. But I want to ask you this before we get out of the NFL talk. He came in the NFL with Philip Rivers and Eli Manning, both being drafted ahead of him. It was a very good draft class that year for quarterbacks. As Eli got 2 Super Bowls, Ben got 2 Super Bowls, and Philip Rivers had a very good career, even though he didn't get a Super Bowl. 4 Super Bowls in that draft class. It's very successful. I ask you from this perspective, with Big Ben fading out, rightfully so, as he should, where do you rank him between Eli and Philip?
The Super Bowls, obviously give him a leg up on Philip, right?
Yes.
Philip didn't have the defense. He didn't have the defense that Ben had, so he wasn't afforded the same, chance, I guess you could say. So, but Philip Rivers was a hell of a quarterback. He could sling it around the field. He was a confident quarterback. He was everything that you want in a franchise guy. And unfortunately for San Diego's fans, they weren't able to put a defense or a team around him to succeed. If so, they might have gone and won a Super Bowl or 2 themselves. So, and that being said, when you rank them, you have to look at Eli, and as much as as an Eagles fan, you hate to say Eli was the best out of the 3. You have to say he was the best out of the 3. He was efficient. He managed the game. He put up the yards that he needed to. He put the ball in the end zone. He had his mistakes. He threw some interceptions, but he wasn't afraid to make those throws. Legacy name aside, I think Eli Manning had a better career than those 2. So I rank him 1. When you look at Philip Rivers and Big Ben, I compare the 2. If you're looking strictly as a passing quarterback, I rank Philip Rivers over Big Ben. Big Ben was afforded, a running game for a while. All Rivers had was Darren Sproles. He really didn't have, electric runners like and he didn't have a game plan really like the Steelers had. The Steelers had that old school run the ball mentality that afforded him the ability to pick teams apart with play action and things like that. But he was able to do it. So you can't fault the guy for having pieces. If I were to rank them, I think I have them a dead heat, just based on ability and things like that. And then the success, the 2 Super Bowls with Ben might inch him ahead slightly. But I have them right around the same. I mean, if you flip flop them and you put Philip Rivers on that Pittsburgh team,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh wins 2, maybe not 3. They might win more than 2. So that's where I stand with those 3 guys.
Hey, I'm not far off, and I think those are great points. I mean, with Big Ben, and it's very similar to Eli. I'm not going to lie, and it's very similar to Philip Rivers. At any time that we played them, I never sat there and said, wow, these guys are going to tear us up. I wasn't like when we played Brady or when we played Manning or even Rodgers at times. I never really felt the fear in God. Like, these guys were good, but I never felt like they were like, we can't do some things to beat these guys. I remember one game we sacked Ben Roethlisberger, I think 9 or 10 times, and we're able to win a game here. He was good. Don't get me wrong. And he's going to end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But in the end, I don't think he was great. I think he's similar to a guy like McNabb in a way, except he's got the rings. And what I'll say about his class is that, yes, Ben's 2-1 in Super Bowls. He beat Matt Hasselbeck that one year, which was, to me, still a fluke type of Seattle year. I don't think they were a great representative of a Super Bowl team. 21-10, there was a fluke holding call in that game too that really put that one on the edge. Seattle has scored the called holding. It flipped that game around. But okay, he wins that game. No Super Bowl MVP. Then they go and play Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's ready to win this game at half. 99-yard interception return by James Harrison. Really turned that game around, let Pittsburgh get back into it. Great catch late in the game by San Antonio. They win the game. No Super Bowl MVP for Ben again. You know what it takes for a quarterback not to win Super Bowl MVP? I mean, exactly. It takes like an act of what? Like they hand these things out like candy on Halloween to quarterbacks. He has 0.
Yep.
And that just solidifies my stance with Ben. Good quarterback. Maybe even borderline very good quarterback out of Miami, Ohio. He did lose the Super Bowl later in his career to Aaron Rodgers. I got to give the nod to Eli. I'm with you. And I would love to give it to Philip because I do think he was more dangerous. I do think he was more polished in a lot of the game, but he didn't get the rings. So I'll go Eli, Ben, then Philip. And I tip my cap to Ben. He's tough. He sat there and he got hit and he stayed in the pocket as long as he could. He held on the ball. Good quarterback. That's where I'm at. Good to very good quarterback. Not great.
100%.
Yeah. All right, Mike, we're wrapping up. We got about 5 minutes left in this show. And like we said, when we opened up here, I've been missing some Flyers talk. And I really want to ask you the question, and I try. I do watch him, and I especially watch him on the West Coast because, later at night, I just felt the opportunity was a little more there. I was able to see some of the games, maybe not all the way through the third period sometimes, but, and they started out pretty good on that trip and then really sagged as they dragged on there, losing some games against LA and some other teams that I think they had opportunities to win. And then now they've come back home and really looked awful. And then they had to cancel the game the other night. I ask you the question. We know where this team's at. They're very low in the standings, sitting almost at the bottom of their division. Is this team even worth watching right now? Because, firing the coach, really, we get it, and that needed to happen. But they haven't really – they started turning things around. Now they've fallen back to probably where they were before they fired the coach. And it's frustrating. We thought this year was going to be a year of growth. It looks like a year of, once again, transition. And a team that is mired in, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's – so, not being on the show for a while, I'll kind of take you through the whole season from my perspective. You start the season out, you had high hopes. You had a guy like Ryan Ellis coming in to solidify the back line. You got rid of a bunch of young kids on the back line. You brought in some experience on the forward side of things. and you're getting some production. In the beginning of the season, they had some positivity, and then the whole thing with AV goes down, and they have to move on from him, and that was the right call, I think. But with the way things have been shaking up here, and with the COVID issue, I mean, with the COVID is absolutely just decimated this team. But it all started when Ryan Ellis went down. And when he went down, it was like it took the heart out of this team. It took something from this team. It took an identity from this team for some reason. And I don't know. I can't explain why. Missing Kevin Hayes in the beginning of the season didn't help. He's still not up to 100%, I don't think. And now, he's looked. I mean, he's got to carry the load, and he's not 100%. So he's struggling a little bit. Konechny's not putting the puck in the net. And now, COVID comes, and now you got half a lineup. I mean, you're rolling teams. You're rolling out there without Giroux. You're rolling out there without Provorov, Konechny. Cam Atkinson has been a fantastic addition to this team. He's spectacular. I think when you saw Brassard come back, he added a spark the other night against the Penguins before they faltered a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I think unfortunately, I think this team has stumbled a little too much to gain back the points that they've given up. They lost 10 straight, and I think they've given up a little too much to get back into it. So it's going to come down to how well does this team play going forward once they get out of this COVID thing and they can all start playing as a full lineup again. Can we see Mike Yeo put in some type of a change in philosophy? He's got them playing a little more aggressive. I still hate their breakout, their long pass, stretch pass first. Their forwards are way too high. They don't come back and support the defense, and that game plan I think hurts them because the turnovers are there, shots on goal. I mean, poor Carter Hart gets blasted every game, and it's not him.
I was going to ask you that. I don't think it's him either. I really don't.
He's played a much better game this year.
I agree.
I don't Carter Hart. The power play is really not clicking at all. They just seem to, every time they get something right, something else goes wrong or somebody else goes out. And I think they've just fallen back too far to make any type of a push this year. Now, that being said, there's still a half a season of hockey left. And things can change. Things can change. I mean, who knows what other teams might fall into the same trap of COVID and things like that. You saw a Bruins team that was struggling early on, and they picked it up recently. Capitals falling a little bit recently. There's still a lot of hockey left, and I'm not counting them out, but I don't think that they have enough time to make up those points, and I do think that you'll see a trade at the end of the year where Claude Giroux is sent somewhere for some draft picks or a draft pick, and it's time to get rid of him if they're not in some sort of a race. If they are, listen, I'm not a super huge yay Claude Giroux. I'm not that guy, but I do think he's been a fantastic player on this team. The points don't lie. He's top 5 in points in his career while he's been here in the league.
Yeah.
He plays the power play, puts the puck in the net, he sets guys up. People say about his leadership. I think he's more of a leader than what we see. We don't see inside the locker room. We don't see what goes on. I'd love to see them do some type of a documentary on the Flyers locker room to see what's going on in there. Because if you watched last year, you watched that Toronto Maple Leafs online, and you saw how John Tavares is he's a terrible captain in my opinion. He's like soft. I think Claude Giroux's much harder than he is. I think he's tougher than he is. And if he's able to help this team turn things around in the second half, and there's a shot at making the playoffs, and they make the playoffs, I think they re-sign him and they keep him. But
yeah,
I don't personally feel that's going to happen. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be time for him to go and find another home. And then the rebuilding can begin from that perspective. And it's a shame because they brought all these players in, Brassard, Atkinson, and guys like that to play AV's game, and AV's gone. So now what?
Yep.
Right now, what do? You have Hayes played under AV. Ristolainen is a solid defenseman, but he takes nights off, it seems. I don't know why. He just seems like he takes some nights off. The other night he played really physical and really well, but some nights it seems like you're like, what is he doing out there? But Kevin Hayes getting healthier. Maybe the guys come back from COVID. Konechny, Giroux, shuffle some lines up, get a full lineup, and see what this team's made about. Is made of in 10 games, and then you can decide from there.
I'm with you. So first off, on the Carter Hart thing, I mean, he's actually having a year very close to what he had 2 years ago. His save percentage, I think, is .912 this year. It was .914 that 2 years ago. His goals against average, he's under 3 this year, and I know he's like more like 2.5 a couple years ago. Last year was like 3.6 and 870. He's definitely improved. It's not him. I'm okay. I'm okay with the Carter Hart thing.
Patience with Carter Hart. Patience.
Yeah, patience. I'm 100% there with you. I mean, what we got? 4 games out of Ryan Ellis this year. I mean, that was supposed to be a big piece. Keith Yandel we brought in. He's minus 21 plus or minus, and he's got a few assists here and there, but they really haven't been able. And like you said, Ristolainen, I think he's also under. He's like minus 3 or 4. Like he's been up, down, all around. Not sure. They haven't found the pairings they wanted on defense and on offense. It's just it feels like Hacksaw all over again. They can't just find it and they can't stick with it. And as far as Giroux goes, I would have loved for him to retire in the orange and black. I would. But as I see this team, and I understand the flaws that this team has, they just need these guys like Frost and other players playing a lot more. And I want Giroux to get a chance somewhere because it's not going to be here. And we're not getting there this year. We're not getting there next year. We'll get there. I do think if we can stick patience with Carter Hart, if we can find the right balance of youth and veterans, I think we can get there. I do think we need to move on from Giroux for his benefit, not ours.
That's mutual.
I've always
mutual. It's mutual benefit. Mutual benefit.
Yeah.
You clear that cap space. Clear that cap space.
Yeah, I think Konechny's been a huge letdown, and unfortunately, man, he was bad last year too. And I just thought this was going to be the rebound year. And it's not there. And I don't blame Giroux at all. But I would like to see Konechny play without him. I just feel like let the young kids play. Let them have a young team and just fly around for the last couple months and see what happens. Atkinson's been great.
I thought that when they got rid of Voracek, they got rid of the cancer, right? They got rid of the locker room cancer. But some of those players were around when he was still here. So if you don't get them out of that mindset of, it's the same as last year, it's just without Voracek. Well, I don't see that happening with a guy like Konechny. You see things from Joel Farabee that you like, right? He moved forward, and then he gets set back with injury or COVID, and now he takes a while to get back up to speed. But he was playing well. I really liked him on the line with Cam Atkinson and Brassard. I thought they were electric. Those guys. Morgan Frost he's not been hurt a whole year, but I think he plays well. The coach has got to be on him to play more consistent. I like what you get out of that fourth line. McEwen and Brown show energy. They give energy. The defense, like you said, listen, Yandel is what he is. He's an older player. He's on the decline, but he's there to captain your power play. That's why he's there.
He is.
So if he's out there getting 11 minutes a night, all right, fine. But right now he's having to toe more ice time because of so many injuries and so many young kids having to play. York having to play. These guys having to come up and having to put time in. Zamula even had to come out and play. Sealers has been here, and he's played well. Sealers played great. Don't mind him playing at all. But when those guys have to get into the lineup, that just means more ice time for Yandel to eat up. And he's not the player he used to be, and he's not going to eat those minutes up. He's not efficient when he's eating up those minutes because now he's gassed on the power play and he's not giving you what you need there.
Yeah, and the younger guys, unfortunately, like we did think we'd see growth from guys like Lawton, guys like Lindblom. I know Lindblom's coming off, the cancer stuff.
Right.
But
you know what?
These guys,
that excuse is over.
It's over, and they put up 10 points, 11 points mutually in 34, 33 games each. And they haven't been the guys we thought they were going to be. And I think that's been one of the biggest problems we've had.
Yeah,
Like when we
a guy that we've even mentioned in this conversation, and why I don't know, but Sean Couturier has been out for how long? And you've seen it in years past how when he's not in the lineup, the Flyers really struggle when he's not in the lineup, and that's continuing. When he's not there, they struggle, and that's a glowing factor. I mean, when he comes back to the lineup, I think people like Konechny improve. I think it takes a lot more pressure off of Giroux, off of Frost, off of a guy like Lawton. I like the way Lawton plays. I like his game. I like his penalty killing. I like his defensive end prowess. And he's got some upside on the offensive side, but I think he's trying to carry too much ice time because he doesn't have a Sean Couturier to eat those clock minutes up.
Yeah. And I mean, when I get to Lawton and Lindblom and I look at other things, the Flyers, there's only 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that have scored less goals than them. One of them is the Islanders, which I don't even think is a fair comparison right now because they played 8 less games, with all their COVID stuff. So really maybe two teams, and those teams are just complete trash when you look at teams like Montreal and Ottawa. And the offense has been a big problem. When they score goals, they seem to play a lot better. I know that's easy to say, but that's really where I thought we were going to have some advantages this year. And the offense has been disappointing.
And I think a lot of that has to do with they can't get through the neutral zone because they're trying stretch passes or the forwards are too high, not coming back to the D to support the D. There's no structured breakout. And when they do it and they get the puck in, the forecheck's not there. So there's a lot of things that need to kind of come together. And I think Mike Yeo is trying to put in a support system, shorter passes, less turnovers, and that'll create offense, which really is what they need.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I'll answer the final question that we have on the banner below. Is there hope? I do, and maybe Mike's getting there too, and he can answer this. But with the fact of the matter is, they've only scored 2 points in their last 6 games, 2 overtime losses. But I do believe that this team, once they make a few moves at the trade deadline, they're going to play a little freer. They're going to play a little better. I don't think they get to the playoffs, but I do think we're going to start to see some better play. And I think they're going to be worth watching. And I think it's worthwhile to see some of these younger players and some of the defensive pairings that we can see going forward here once they get healthy. So I think the Flyers are still worth watching. I still think there's some hope. Don't sit here and take this as they're making the playoffs because they're not. They're not. I just don't believe it. I think they're too far behind. 10 points out of the last wild card, 14 out of the spot of the top 3 in their division. But I do think there's a potential for them to play better the last couple months here, and especially once they make moves here and free up some ice time for their younger players.
That being said, they are 2 to 3 wins from gaining confidence that might put them on a run. And that could spark a team and jump them up. So it's a long season. You can hope that they get some confidence with a couple of wins coming out of the COVID. Hopefully they get some people healthy, get back. Hopefully it's not too late. That's all. You just got to hope they get healthy and not too late.
Yeah, and I will agree with you on that standpoint. You got a couple. With these teams trailing, you got the Rangers coming up this Saturday. You got some other teams that they haven't beat this season. You got a couple. You get the confidence level peaking. We've seen the Flyers. They had that streak there right before COVID out near the holidays. They had a 5-6 game point streak, and they were doing well. We've seen the Flyers win 9, 10. It's happened in years past in a row. Could happen. I'm with you. It could happen. Don't know. And there is maybe a glimmer of hope. But they're worth watching. They're worth at least holding out some hope that they do make some moves at the trade deadline and at least improve their play going into next year. Mike, I've enjoyed this last hour plus here talking with you, my man, the OG. I love it, man. I love having you. I love the Angry Mike rant, and it's awesome having you back here.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. Like I said, big shoes to fill here on Tomasini, but I know he'll do a great job when he gets back in here, and you'll be able to talk about a possible Eagles victory next week. I'm going to be listening. I hope to jump on again sometime in the future and
You will.
and chat some hockey with you guys. I'll come on and help you out.
Absolutely, Mike. Well, absolutely. I love having you. Love having you back. Like I said, this has been great. Philly 444 plus more. I'm Dave Gluckner. That's Mike Salamon. We loved having you. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for people that checked in. Until next week. Hey, Winning Wednesday. That's what we are. Let's hope we have one next weekend. Go Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Until then, I'm Dave. That's Mike. We're deuces.